She has been married for 12 years. She has never had her own bank account. She does not know what her husband earns, what he has saved, or what she would do if tomorrow she needed to support herself. Islam gave her the right to her own money 1400 years ago. Nobody told her. Assalamu alaikum, beautiful souls, and welcome back to From Zakam to Shifa. Today I want to talk about money. Specifically, I want to talk about what Muslim women know and do not know about their own financial lives, about ownership, savings, investment, and the specific vulnerability that comes from building a life where your financial security depends entirely on someone else's decisions and someone else's continued presence. This is not a comfortable conversation. Money is not something we talk about openly in Muslim communities, and money as it relates to women's independence is even less discussed. There is sometimes an assumption that a good Muslim wife does not need to think about her own finances because her husband is providing for her. And while the husband's financial obligation to provide is real and Islamic, we covered that in our episode on marriage rights. What is also real and also Islamic is every Muslim woman's right to her own financial life. Separate, protected, entirely her own. Khadija was wealthy before she married the Prophet, and she stayed wealthy within the marriage. Her financial independence was never offered as something to give up in exchange for a husband. It was hers. And that is the model we have somehow lost in the cultural transmission of Islam. Let me name something that I think many Muslim women do not fully reckon with until they are in the middle of a crisis. When a Muslim woman has no income of her own, no savings of her own, no financial knowledge of her own, when her entire financial life runs through her husband's account and her husband's decisions, she is one event away from financial collapse. That event might be divorce. It might be her husband's death. It might be his illness, his job loss, his financial mismanagement. It might be something she never anticipated and cannot control. Research on women and financial vulnerability consistently shows that women who have no independent financial resources are significantly more likely to stay in harmful situations, including abusive marriages, because they do not have the financial means to leave. The connection between financial dependence and the inability to exit harmful situations is direct and well documented. A woman who has her own account, her own savings, her own income, however modest, has options that a woman without those things does not have. This is not about distrusting your husband. It is about being a complete person with a complete life, including a financial life, rather than a financial extension of someone else. And it is about making sure that your family's well-being does not rest entirely on one person's continued health, employment, and presence. I want to be very specific here because the gap between what Islam gives Muslim women financially and what Muslim women actually claim is enormous. First, a Muslim woman's income belongs entirely to her, not partially, entirely. If she earns money from work, from business, from inheritance, from any source, that money is hers. She is not required to contribute it to household expenses. She is not required to disclose the amount to her husband. She is not required to seek his permission to spend it, save it, or invest it. This is not a modern feminist interpretation. This is classical Islamic jurisprudence, confirmed across all 4 major schools of thought. Second, her mahr, the marriage gift, belongs to her, not to her father, not to the household, not to her husband after the marriage, to her. It is a financial asset that is entirely in her control and cannot be taken from her without her free consent. Third, a Muslim woman has the full right to own property, to enter into business contracts, to invest, to save, to build wealth, independently, without her husband's involvement or approval. This right was established in the Quran and confirmed by the Prophet's own household. Khadija was a wealthy woman who managed significant business interests. Her financial independence was not a concession her husband made. It was her Islamic right. The cultural narrative that has told Muslim women to hand their financial lives over to their husbands is not Islamic. It has cost generations of Muslim women their security, their options, and sometimes their safety. I want to move from principle to practice, because knowing you have a right is the first step, and knowing how to exercise it is the second. The first step is to have your own bank account. If you do not have one, open one today. It does not need to have large amounts in it to start. It needs to exist, to be in your name alone, and to be the place where you begin to build something that is entirely yours. The second step is to understand your household finances, not to control them or to distrust your husband, but to know what comes in, what goes out, what assets exist, and what liabilities exist. A woman who does not know what her husband earns, what the mortgage balance is, or what savings exist is a woman who cannot make informed decisions about her own life. Financial knowledge is not suspicion, it is competence. The third step is to save something, even a small amount, regularly. The Islamic principle of not spending everything you earn, of leaving something for the future, applies to women as much as it applies to men. Even $50 a month consistently saved builds something over time, something that is yours, something that creates options. The fourth step is to learn the basics of investing, not advanced trading, the basics. How registered accounts work in Canada, what an RRSP is, and how it protects your retirement savings, what a TFSA is, and why every Muslim woman should have one, whether halal investment options are available, and what they look like. There are Muslim financial advisors in Canada who understand both Islamic finance principles and the Canadian financial system. Seeking one out is an act of stewardship over the resources Allah placed in your care. I want to address directly the woman who is reading this and thinking, my husband would not be comfortable with me having financial independence, because I know that is a real situation, and I do not want to give advice that ignores the reality of the marriages some women are in. If your husband is uncomfortable with you having your own account, your own savings, your own financial knowledge, that discomfort is worth examining together. A husband who controls his wife's access to money is exercising a form of control that Islamic jurisprudence does not give him. Her money is not his to control. Her financial knowledge is not his to restrict. If he is resistant to her financial independence, that resistance is worth a direct, calm conversation, ideally with the support of a Muslim counselor who understands Islamic financial rights. For most marriages, though, this is not about permission. It is about habit and assumption, and the fact that nobody ever set up a different structure. Many Muslim husbands, when their wives express the desire to have their own account and their own savings, will be entirely supportive. The conversation just has not been had. Have it. Frame it not as distrust, but as responsibility. I want us both to be financially prepared for whatever life brings. That framing is accurate, and it is less likely to be received as a challenge. A sister told me about the moment she realized she had built something. She had been saving quietly for 4 years, small amounts regularly without making a big deal of it. And then a situation arose in her family where money was needed quickly, not for herself, for someone she loved who was in difficulty. And she had it. She could help, without asking anyone, without waiting, without creating a financial stress for her household. She just helped. She told me that was the moment she understood what financial independence actually means. Not the freedom to leave, not protection against her husband, just the capacity to act, to respond to what life brings without being limited by the absence of resources, to be a complete person who can do what she decides to do. That capacity, that financial completeness, is what Islam gave Muslim women from the beginning. It is what Khadija had. It is what the women of the early Muslim community had. It got lost somewhere in the cultural transmission, and it is time to find it again. Halal Investment Options Canada. Search for Wealthsimple Halal Portfolio, Saturna Capital, or consult a Muslim financial advisor, Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, Financial Consumer, Basics of Banking, Saving, RRSP and TFSA information, Islamic Finance Canada, Halal Mortgage and Investment Resources, CCMW, Canadian Council of Muslim Women, Advocacy and Resources for Muslim Women, NISA Helpline, 1-888-315-6472, Confidential Support for Muslim Women. This is From Zakham to Shifa. Your money is yours. Your financial knowledge is yours. Your right to build something that belongs entirely to you is 1400 years old. It is time to use it. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum. Share this with one Muslim woman who does not yet have her own account. That is where it starts. Short clips from this season are on Instagram at From Zakham to Shifa. She has been married for 12 years. She has never had her own bank account. She does not know what her husband earns, what he has saved, or what she would do if tomorrow she needed to support herself. Islam gave her the right to her own money 1400 years ago. Nobody told her. This episode is about Muslim women and financial independence, what Islam actually gives them, what most have never claimed, and what to do about it. We talk about the financial vulnerability that comes from having no independent financial resources, and the direct research-based connection between financial dependence and the inability to exit harmful situations. We talk about what Islamic jurisprudence says clearly. A Muslim woman's income is entirely her own, her mahr is entirely her own, and her right to own, save, invest, and build wealth is fully established in the Quran and Sunnah. And we get practical. What to do first, what conversations to have, what accounts to open, and what halal investment options exist in Canada, because knowing your rights is the first step. Building on them is the second.